Hey, job board fans. Joe Stubblebine here is one of my oldest friends in the job board business. He's currently chief revenue officer of Lensa. But before he started Jobcircle.com back in the late 90s, which was acquired by Beyond.com, which turned into Nexxt. So, Joe, it's good to see you. And you're joining us from PA today, right?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. It's so great to see your face. I miss you, and certainly miss a lot of the colleagues that I spent so much time with over the years. I guess we're kind of getting to be like old men in this space now.
I know.
We're gray going, and at least we're still alive, and we're still enjoying what we do for a living. So that's
still kicking. Yeah. So yeah, Joe and I are HR conference regulars, and we've been out there for a long time. He's the guy that gave me my nickname of the mad scientist of online recruiting. So
that's my biggest contribution to the entire space, Chris.
That's right. I still remember that day, Joe. That was I think it was in New York, I think, or some.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always had a lot of respect for you, and I've sent a number of folks over to you for the years because, I mean, I know you're interviewing me, but ultimately, I think you have been one of those people where you're really like a mad scientist. You like to tinker, you like to play around with stuff, video postings. You're always the first guy to break the news on what's happening, pre-IPO stuff. I mean, you have been sort of like a detective, I think, in our space, and so I've always watch what you've done. And I think some of your ideas have really gone mainstream. If you had a lot of success in the past, obviously building your own job boards and selling them, it's certainly your consulting business. And so when I came over that name, I thought it was pretty fitting because I always love how you explore and you think differently about recruitment advertising. And I've always respected you for that.
Nice. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to dive into your Jobcircle days first, but let's talk about Lensa. So first of all, what is Lensa and how's it going there?
Yeah, Lensa. I've been with Lensa for 3 years now. Can you believe it? March 2018. I was introduced actually to the CEO of Lensa. His name is Jargo Veri. He's Hungarian, by Alex Murphy. And, Alex, joint friend, good old friend of ours. Lensa has been just one of the most amazing places that I've worked. I love working for Jargo. I love the way he thinks. A lot of people, he's very quiet. He kind of leads through humility, but he's had a number of exits in the past. Probably his largest was he had sold Profession.hu, which was the largest job board in Hungary, to Stepstone for, I think it was about 12 million US or so. So he's been around for a while and understands the recruitment advertising space. He lived in New York for about 10 years. I'm sorry, not yet. He lived in New York for about 3 years during high school, and then also lived in California with his wife and children for about 10 years. So he's very American in the way that he thinks. Went to school for economics in Canada, and he really, as he started to build out another job board, he really wanted to build something that would make an impact on job seekers and certainly employers in the United States. Because, obviously Hungary is a small country. A lot of Americans are like, where is Hungary? It's 10 million people, very small economy, Central Europe. And for Jargo, I think really just like we have the American dream, Jargo has it as well, and started Lensa and really scaled it up pretty quickly. I think one of the really great advantages of Lensa is that we make US dollars. We only sell traffic and job seekers and services and products in the United States. But we also have an extremely strong Hungarian development team, which is the main reason I left Nexxt, because I loved working for Nexxt, and certainly Rich and the team over there, they've done an incredible job. I've watched Nexxt grow from nothing as well. But I was so impressed with just the talent at Lensa, so I decided to make that leap and leave Nexxt, because you remember I was managing all the direct and the recruitment advertising business for Nexxt. So Lensa basically is pretty much a career pathing informational tool. We do have obviously job search products and things like that. So we are generally a career site, but we try and really take a pretty much a data-driven approach in terms of how we match our job seekers. We use a lot of AI. We use a lot of sophisticated technology. We have 6 people on staff that just develop Tableau reports so that we can make good decisions on how we're making changes to our UI and things like that. About 60% of our staff has at least one master's degree. We have a couple PhDs on staff in AI and mathematics. And I was really lucky as a chief revenue officer for the company to have a very strong leader and a very strong team behind me, which is why I made that choice to go to Lensa. So it's been a great journey so far. I've been really enjoying it.
So it's Lensa.com for the audience if you want to check it out. So it's just US only right now at this point.
Correct. Yeah, we really, I mean, the US is such a big market, and there's obviously so many great partners that we have in the United States. We do have companies from Australia, obviously UK, all over the world that buy Lensa for the purpose of driving obviously clicks to their jobs in the United States. So we're not restricting our sales to just the US side, but we made the decision that, I mean, the US is always where it's at, right? And it's typically cutting edge. And I think there's less education in the United States. We have a lot of great partners like Indeed and ZipRecruiter and Nexxt and a number of companies that have already matured and understand how to buy and sell, and how the sophistication levels, I think, in the United States tend to be a little more advanced with regard to this space. Although, I mean, I give a lot of my international friends credit. I think you remember TA Tech 10, 15 years ago, it was generally all Americans. And I think now I love the diversification of how most of our conferences have a large portion of international folks that are also coming in as well. And for me personally, it's been great just being able to get over and explore Central Europe. Obviously, we have a very large office in Budapest, Hungary. We've got about 85 or 90 folks there. And then we have a decent sized office in Westchester, Pennsylvania, 45 minutes west of Philadelphia. And we've got about 6 Americans with the company. So Gergo kind of put an American front end on the organization. And obviously we have this really strong Hungarian math and comp sci the base of talent that really, I think, makes an interesting combination. We do some pretty cool stuff that I haven't really even seen many other career sites or job boards do.
Again,
so very excited.
Give me a couple examples of that. Like, what makes you guys unique, do you think?
Well, we are the only company, and if you have any viewers that would argue this, I would love to hear from them. But I think ultimately, every day we have about 60 million pieces of job content. We get about 18,000 new job seeker registrations every day in the United States. We also have about 60 million jobs. We probably are running at any given time, let's say 2 to 250 XML campaigns or API campaigns to sort of harvest and pull jobs, and then obviously match them and connect them with job seekers. But every day on your XML file, we run an analytics report that compares your bid rates to all the other bid rates in the entire ecosystem. And we can tell you what percentage of the jobs by industry or by source that you're winning the bids on, which ones you're losing the bids on, because obviously you have a bid offer. It doesn't mean that we have inventory. Job seekers obviously are our inventory. They're people too, of course, but in reality, we sell the ability to connect with job seekers. And so every day our customers can log into their dashboard, pull an Excel spreadsheet that takes even if there's 10 million jobs in that file, we can show you, here's where you're overbidding, here's where you're underbidding, here's what will happen if you bid 1 penny, 2 pennies, 5 pennies, 10 pennies more per click or per job, and what you can expect to receive in traffic, assuming that entire ecosystem stayed exactly the same for the moment that the report was generated. So our customers, and I know you've bought a lot of traffic in the space, you're probably more experienced than I am in it, but when you say, well, I need more, and what do I need to bid? And they'll say, well, I don't know, just maybe move it by 2 cents, 5 cents and see what happens. It's not really a great answer, because you could be overspending. So again, because we're a data-driven company, our analytics team was like, all right, well, we'll provide a factual report, and we'll generate that every single day on every single feed, and a customer can pull that down. For anybody that because we'll get a file of 10, 12 million jobs, and 92% of them are completely going to be ignored by our system because you're coming in at bid rates that are too low. But if you're sitting in your job board and you have no idea how much to bid for accounting folks, right, in Philadelphia, you're just taking a stab at the dark. You're looking at the margins of what you need to make on that click to be able to actually make profit on your marketing expense there. We provide actual detailed reporting that helps customers make better choices in terms of what they want to pay. So
have CPC prices increased a lot during the pandemic? What do you see?
What Lensa has had record revenue months since March of this year, specifically because of that. Obviously, I know, this is a really interesting time for us, right? We're coming off stimulus package. We still have the child tax credits. The market was decimated. We have seen, around that time, when we lost a decent amount of business last April when everything hit the fan. And now we are just growing by 7 to 20% month over month in revenue, primarily because the demand for clicks is so high at this point that our revenue per click, which is generally our main source of measurement, we have X amount of clicks we sell and how much do we make per click, that has probably increased maybe 15x. And so even though our factory is producing slightly more clicks, the amount of money we're making for each one of those clicks has increased by almost 10, 12, 15x. I haven't looked at the exact number, but so that's been really, really big for us. And like, you may know Dwayne Zoskin, who's our buyer. Lensa spends almost just a little less than $1 million a month now buying traffic in the space. And he's having the same challenges. We obviously have to pay more as well. So we're really blending a couple different traffic models together. We really had to go in and create more efficiency and because our machine kind of tells us what we need to buy and where we need to buy it and how much of it we need. So Dwayne builds the partnerships, but our systems actually build our feeds. And of course, we use ClickCast, which is obviously a well-used and I think a very efficient tool. There's a number of them out there, but we choose to use ClickCast. We like ClickCast. And ultimately, it allows us to buy more efficiently. And that's been, I think, a really, really helpful for us. And then being able to maximize that engagement when we have that job seeker who chooses to join Lensa. So it's been a fascinating time to watch.
So this industry has been built, this aggregation industry has been built on CPC. I'm curious what your thoughts are about the Indeeds of the world doing CPA now, cost per application. Have you seen that news, and what do you guys think about that?
It's interesting. I think Indeed is a great product. I mean, we've actually used it at Lensa to hire folks. And one thing that Indeed does, I think that is very clever, is they never really talk about bid rates. They never really talk about how much you're bidding. What they do is they say, hey, Chris, you have a job opening. How many applications do you want to get? And how fast do you want those applications? Do you want to make this hire in a month? Do you want to make it in a day? And as you give them some input, they'll say, okay, well, if you want, on average 10 applications a day, you're going to need to put $10 a day budget. They never talk about cost per click. And I believe that most employers don't really even want to focus on bid rates and click rates. It's for us in the space, it's interesting because it always backs into a CPC, of course, but Indeed is smart in the way that they really, I think, were the first company that kind of spoke the language to recruiters in a meaningful way, but it became performance-based. Give me $20 more, and then you should be able to get 10 more applications. Of course, their machine on the back end is backing all the way into the effective CPC. And then, of course, they're distributing jobs to different sources and acquiring users at some LTV value or some arbitrage value that they know that they could drive 10 applicants if you put in 10 or 15 more dollars in budget per day per job. So, and those exist today. I think it's really difficult for job boards to be able to really control CPA. We have to drive good traffic to our customers. Everybody has tools, whether it's Jovio or whether it's ClickCast or Indeed IQ or whatever tool you're using to measure your spend. You're still looking at that. How many clicks did it take to get an apply, right? And in the case of a customer, you're saying, how many clicks did it take to get to an apply, to an interview, to a hire? Job boards typically will say, how many clicks did it take for me to acquire a new member? But ultimately, if you don't drive a reasonable cost per apply or cost per new member, you're going to get fired. Customer's going to fire you. So you got to make sure you have good traffic. And so ultimately, it's difficult. If you said to me, Joe, I have these jobs and I need to be in a $45 apply rate, we'll put you in the system, but I can't really control, other than making sure that I target my matching and my relevance as high to give me the highest probability that the people I'm putting your job in front of will actually be interested in it and choose to apply. So other than relevancy, which, some sites are really, really good at it. Others just throw a bunch of garbage at job seekers and they're just trying to generate clicks for the sake of generating click revenue. cost per apply can sometimes be a little more challenging because how do you might have distribution channels, whether that's SMS or pop-up notifications or email or site search. Maybe some channels are doing better than others. So you could pull that ad out of some channels and put it in others, right? But other than that, job boards don't really have a huge amount of power to strictly control CPA.
Yeah, they don't have the reach of an Indeed, which can basically make that kind of move.
Right. And it's about your pool, your candidate pool as well, right? If you're a smaller career site or job board, you just simply have less people to put in front of. But we're also seeing this equalization in the marketplace because you do have really great exchanges, like Jovio has a job board exchange, Appcast has their job board exchange. And it does, and that's something that didn't really exist other than we had like the Jujus and the Talroos back when you and I were young, but if you're a new career site or job board starting today, do you need to build deep partnerships with a bunch of different publishers out there, or can you just simply put your jobs into the exchange, allow all those job boards to pick those jobs up and drive a diversified mix of traffic into those jobs just simply by participating in the exchange program? And that's usually the life cycle of a job board, right? When they come in, they typically will just participate in the exchanges. And as they become more mature, they say, ooh, that ZipRecruiter traffic is really good, or that job case traffic is really good. Let me get in there and just, negotiate a dedicated buy with that particular site. So, and diversification is important too, right? SEO is huge. Lensa gets about 24.6% of our traffic from SEO. We have 6 full-time SEO folks on staff. We take it extremely seriously, because SEO traffic is
free,
really healthy. It's very difficult to get, and it reduces our spend. It actually saves expense, or actually allows us to invest more in marketing so that we can have a paid search and an organic search strategy. So
are you getting more traffic from Google for Jobs or just regular Google search, do you think?
It's from, I believe, primarily from Google for Jobs. I just see the numbers in terms of what the percentage of SEO versus paid is, but I can't answer that deeply. I'm not quite sure, but I think most of it is Google for Jobs. I'm not sure what percentage comes from search. We'd have to ask our product guys that, but it's an important part of our strategy, because obviously those job seekers are very valuable and engage really, really well. So, so we've been pretty happy with that.
Well, let's take a trip back in time, Joe. Take back to the late 90s. What's the origin of Jobcircle.com? Explain what it is too.
Jobcircle.com. Do people even know that anymore? That's like dating myself. I was actually.
By the way, is the domain name is it still with?
Yeah. So when Nexxt acquired the assets and liabilities of Jobcircle, the domain name did go with that. And I believe if you go to Jobcircle.com today, I think it resolves to Nexxt.
Let me just double check that. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, and you remember Career Cloud. I spent a lot of money on that domain, and I think I sold it to you for $800. I think we spent about 80,000 on that. I think, if I'm not mistaken,
80,000,
something like that. Yeah.
They said, wow.
Yeah.
I typed in
jobs. We don't always get it right, Chris. We don't always get it right. But so Jobcircle, we started Jobcircle back in 1998. It was actually I was in IT at the time. I used to be a programmer and a developer, mostly LAMP technologies, and met 2 other tech folks while we were on a consulting contract in Delaware. And Dice was really big. I had gotten that job through Dice, and they still are certainly a great site today. And we said, we could build a job board. We could do this. So in our part-time, we just kind of, just sort of did it after work. And then we met Bob Etheridge. Bob Etheridge, who I know had said, I think he had like $40,000 cash, and he had met us at a TA Tech event, or a Total Recruiters event in Philly, and said, I'd love to come work for you guys and sell this. This is a great product. I think we had like 47 resumes in our database at the time. And so then Bob came on board, and very quickly we went from 0 to over $1 million in revenue. And Bob's like, I need help. So then I quit my job Nexxt, and then Mike Farley quit his job, and then Kent Empey quit his job. And the 4 of us kind of ran Jobcircle for a number of years. Then we got acquired. You may recall jobnet.com, which was Ward Chrisman was the founder. We then merged the assets and liabilities of both those companies together, because Ward's company was struggled a little bit, and their investors had come in and said, hey, why don't we acquire Jobcircle? We're literally 10 minutes. Our offices were 10 minutes apart. So we created a new company called Human Capital Solutions, and they left me in charge of everything. And so we kind of merged the teams together, and then we launched a magazine in Philadelphia called Hired Magazine, which was, you may remember that, 20,000 copies at about 1,000 different locations every 2 weeks. So we were in the print business. But we used the print business to kind of drive the online business as well. And then we started our career fair division. At one point, we were doing almost 2 million a year just in career fairs, mostly East Coast, because we were pretty much from New York to DC. And the career fair business was just really fun. Did you get a chance to ever come to any of those? I can't remember. We would do really crazy shows. We had like Jobs Gone Wild, where we bring the Elmwood Zoo in, and we wear safari, all the staff would wear safari hats, and we'd have LinkedIn, dress for success runways, and people would model business attire and things like that. We would donate some proceeds to charities that helped folks that couldn't afford to have a decent interview outfit, So we really had a lot of fun. Big ballparks, Philly stadiums, battleships, movie theaters. So we tried to really think out of the box with our career fairs. And when I think back on those times, those career fairs were just great, because we also got to meet our customers and meet our job seekers. When you get 7,000 job seekers coming to the Phillies ballpark, and they're just like, "Hey, this is amazing. Thank you. We appreciate it." And you could see the interviews happening. It was definitely a very rewarding part of my career, I think. So,
yeah.
And then of course, Nexxt acquired us in 2012. I had known Rich Milgram for quite a long time. And I always joked with him. I had met him when he was an IT consultant. I think he was working at Comcast. And he said, "Oh, I have this thing called Philly Jobs. And, would you guys want to buy it?" And we're like, "Yeah," because at the time we were just IT. And so I said, "Well, we're going to stick with IT," and dumb mistake by me. Obviously, Rich ended up going full-time with Philly Jobs, and then scaled it out, got some funding from Safeguard, and then did an incredible job of just blowing up that business. And today they're, probably, I'm sure, the top 6, top 7 in terms of, I would think, volume and overall success. And so eventually Rich acquired Jobircircle and folded us into his team. And I was there for about 5 years. And it was actually, really enjoyed my time with Nexxt, learned a lot of smart people over there. And then, of course,
do you think, you mentioned the magazine stuff. Do you think today that's still a good strategy for a sort of a new, let's say you're a new local job board out there, and you want to get traction? Is something like a newspaper or magazine, you think it's a good idea today still?
I think in niche markets, like let's say OrlandoJobs.com, that would be a perfect place where everybody knows Orlando Jobs. But if you can make a decent amount of money with display advertising, especially recruitment advertising today. We would fill up that book with about 46 pages worth of print ads. At the time, you might recall that like Employment Guide had a national brand, and there was a few other, they were typically offshoots of newspapers.
Yeah.
It was a little bit more cumbersome because you had major printing costs. You had to make sure that everything was getting out the door properly. You had to have a decent book. I mean, you couldn't sell 12 pages of advertising. We had glossy front covers, and they were quite beautiful. I mean, it was a nice magazine. And in the back, we had listings basically by job title and things like that, where you could actually go to Jobircircle and put in a number and then look up the job posting. So we used it as a way also to support our career fairs. We would actually put our career fair show guide in the middle of the magazine, so that when we had our career fair show guide, we'd give out Hired magazines, and then they could just tear out the show guide, and that show guide will be distributed to all the folks that didn't go to our career fair. So it was really kind of a nice trifecta, I think, of having the in-person career fair, the print, and Wawa and 7-Eleven. We have a lot of them around here. You couldn't go in or out of a Wawa or 7-Eleven without, picking up that magazine and knowing that it was a big career fair. We also did a lot of interesting radio partnerships, and I credit Bob Etheridge, my marketing partner, for this, because he was really out of the box the way he thought about things, where we would go partner with the Phillies, PHL 17, and they would give us 10 spots per customer. When you bought a career fair booth, you would get 10 spots. It would be a donut, 2 seconds in the front and 2 seconds in the back for advertising, 4 seconds pitching the company or whatever it was. And we would end up having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of commercials running in the month before the career fairs, which is why our career fairs were gigantic. And we would write in blackout dates because the Philadelphia Inquirer was probably our biggest competitor, Knight Ridder at the time. And we would book venues, but then we would block out the venue 8 weeks before and 8 weeks later so that they couldn't try and come in, because they would almost, pretty much blatantly steal our ideas. Soon as we sold and we phased out the career fair, our last career fair was when Nexxt had acquired us. It was actually at a casino. And because you could do all these cool themes with locations as well. Right after that, Philadelphia Inquirer jumped in and started doing career fairs, but just never really scaled it in the way. And I think career fairs now are just kind of a shell of, I think, what they used to be, maybe. But I still think they're
coming
useful.
back at that kind of rate and usage. Do you think?
What's that?
You think career fairs are going to come back at all, as far as the number of them and usage? And
I think college fairs are interesting. College career fairs are interesting to get people sort of kicked off. I think a lot of job seekers, career fairs eventually became a lot of booths just saying, go on and apply on the web. It wasn't, you didn't necessarily generally have interviews. Although I would say that this is an unprecedented period of time of demand. And if we were ever going to do a career fair, Lensa would not do that. It's not part of our model. But if there were companies out there that were planning career fairs, I think now could be an interesting time. If you can target the right people, I think recruiters really want to start having conversations with people. And if you've got a line of 50 people and you can quickly weed through who you want to bring in for an interview and who you don't, and there's a demand as evidenced by that line of people standing in front of your booth, I think in many occupations, it could be very interesting. And companies are getting very aggressive with wages today. So I think that local newspapers, I think career fairs could work. And I'm sure I haven't really followed that space, but I'm sure they're probably happening.
Yeah, they're still out there, I'm just,
yeah.
This has been great, Joe. Last question for you. So piece of advice for new job boards out there. If you're starting a niche job board today, what do you tell people usually?
I think the market is very crowded, and I think there is learning curves today that didn't exist when you and I were getting started. I mean, we have programmatic tools. Everything is based on that cost per click or revenue per click at this point. There's a lot of requirements around metrics and details and reporting. And I've seen it even at Lensa. We have, usually they're typically not US based, but let's say a company will come in from Italy and they're like, oh, we're going to build the best, biggest, most amazing job board. And then they try and change the way XML structure works, or they try and change the buying, or they insist on using their reporting, but their reporting is like some roll up of Google Analytics and it's an estimation of traffic. I think that job boards today are more sophisticated and certainly more data driven than they ever have been. There's a lot of hard work that goes under the hood of a successful career site that can adequately match and deliver good quality clicks. It's not as easy as it was where we could charge $395 a month automatically on your credit card and you could post up to 5 jobs. And it didn't really matter whether you got 5 applications or 500. It's not that we didn't care. It's just that our mind wasn't at that point thinking about the actual performance. We knew that they would renew if they liked us, but today it's much more sophisticated. I think there's a lot of interest in AI, chatbot, matching. I think that if someone's thinking about building a new job board, I would encourage them more to invest in how do you take a job and a resume and intelligently match them together? How do you create efficiency where you can have robots that go and search? And there's a couple new startups that are doing some of this now, where how do you start to help recruiters find candidates in an intelligent way that are able to be matched successfully, and creating more efficiency on the recruiting side of the process. Because I feel like the job board side, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I feel like it's a saturated space, and if you don't have a decent tech team and you don't understand the space, it's going to be a hard learning curve for you. If you just want to stick up a little list of jobs and make a couple dollars here and there, charging for postings, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you really want to scale to the point where you're a 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million job board or an acquisition target, you've got to take it seriously and really invest in the tech and the sales staff, and it's the people. Chris, I mean, you're well connected in the space. You know that sometimes it's very difficult to build relationships, but if you have those, if you're going to the conferences, you're meeting the CEO Career Builder and the CEO of ZipRecruiter, and you can start having those relationships to kind of get you in the door, because you're going to need those folks. We're a cooperative ecosystem. We compete with each other, but we also work together and try and evolve together as well. We all need each other in the space, generally speaking. So it's I'm not sure I would strongly encourage someone to create a pure play job board. I would suggest that you look at something new, something intellectual, something different, or use new platforms like TikTok. How could you leverage TikTok in a way that hasn't been done before, or things along those lines. So
yeah, well, I tell every new job board owner, look, you're in the apply business now.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to, that's your ultimate metric. And if you're not successful at that, then you're not going to make any money. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it's been great catching up, Joe. It's good to see an old
Likewise.
friend again, and
Likewise. I miss you, my
see
friend.
each other in Vegas in a couple of weeks. So looking forward to that.
Yep.
And let's have a beer, definitely.
I would love that, Chris. All right. Take care. Be safe.
All
Stay
right, Joe.
well. Take care.
Joe from Lensa.com. Thank you very much.